Today, we are here in a moment of unity in our state, without ill will, to say it's time to move the flag from the Capitol grounds.
South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley late yesterday afternoon at a press conference at the state capitol in Columbia. And what she had to say prompts vigorous discussion. So we are going to bring in our roundtable with a very important variation. Label this round one, give and take. And fittingly, screen left, though ironically to my right, we've got Dave Aronberg, the Palm Beach County State Attorney, the former Florida State Senator. Later, our friend Javier Manjarres will join us, but right now, a little tug of war on this, or a thoughtful discussion. Dave, shortly after Nikki Haley held her press conference, and there will be a special session of the legislature, and they will deal with this. We're getting the retailers, Walmart, Kmart, and Sears, saying they're going to remove all Confederate merchandise from their stores. We have heard now that some of the electronic merchants, I believe eBay, was not so specific about Confederate flag. They said all Confederate merchandise. Arguably, that could include Margaret Mitchell's iconic novel, Gone with the Wind. Are we seeing an overreaction to what was announced yesterday in Columbia?
I think the reaction is long overdue, actually, JD. The flag's been flying over the Capitol for years, and then recently was moved a few steps beyond the Capitol as a compromise, but it should not be flying over the Capitol in South Carolina. And I think this tragedy is really a turning point, and you're seeing Republican politicians, because Democrats couldn't make this happen. It needed Republicans to stand up and do the right thing, and they are. And I'm not worried about going too far at this point. Let's see how it plays out. Right now, nothing has really happened. So, by the way, it will take corporate America to help push this in the right direction. That's what happened in the Indiana situation with the anti-gay law. They had corporate America came through and said, we're going to boycott Indiana, and that made change. This is the new America where it takes corporations to lead the way.
Oh, now that's interesting. The new America where corporations lead the way, because, David, you could take the opposite of that, saying it was financial pressure that had people abandon their long-held principles, not a matter of exclusion, but a matter of the dollar working to buy influence.
Oh, I mean, you can say that. I mean, it'd be a cynical way, but there is some truth in
that. Well, there's more than just a touch of veracity to that. So this is the danger when we get into these situations. For example, I can take you through a variety of cases. Washington and Lee University. When you go into the chapel at Washington and Lee, there's an alabaster statue called Lee in Repose. General Robert E. Lee, not in death, but sleeping on the battlefield. And surrounding that, in the chapel at Washington and Lee, are various Confederate campaign flags. Washington and Lee is named for George Washington and Robert E. Lee. So, if anyone gets federal financial aid, should those Confederate campaign flags in the chapel at Washington and Lee University be removed because federal dollars may go to students in the form of student loans?
Well, I think every situation needs to be judged on its own merit. You know, I don't know the context of Washington E. Lee and Washington Lee University, which is what you're bringing up, but I know that at least in South Carolina, after this tragedy, it is time now to remove the flag, and it is Governor Nikki Haley, a Republican, who's leading the way. As far as other contexts, the university you mentioned, let's judge each one on its own merits, and that's for later discussion. And
for later, perhaps, opportunities.
Possibly.
Because if we take seriously the observation of my old colleague in the House, Rahm Emanuel, never let a crisis go to waste, which brings me back to the real story here. The real story is the tragic murder of 9 individuals. Yesterday on my program, Newsmax Prime, Armstrong Williams said, flags and symbols don't make the difference in the murders. Some call for stricter gun control. Do you believe there should be stricter gun control in the wake of what happened in Charleston?
Well, it depends what you mean by gun control. Let's see the proposals. You know, I've always been in favor of some sort of assault weapons ban, but we tried that under Bill Clinton, and it was so full of holes it didn't work. There could be various ammunitions, taxes, and things out there on the table, but I have to see the proposal.
Well, let me put a proposal out there for you. Should there be taxes on ammunition levied to such a high degree to restrict the ability of law-abiding Americans to buy ammunition.
When you phrase it like that, well,
That's right, because this
that's
is
a push
give and
poll.
take.
Yeah, that's
Sure
a push
it is.
poll, what you just did.
Sure, it is. But there's a way to restrict it, is there not?
You could raise a tax on ammunition and not take away the right of law-abiding citizens to arm themselves when necessary. So, I mean, I guess it just depends on the specific law. And, you know, in Florida, we have very loose gun control laws, but we still have a ban on open carry. Well, that's something that's being debated. So I don't know how they do it in South Carolina, but I think that this is an opportunity to have a discussion not just of gun control, but also about racial issues, Confederate flag. The one silver lining to this can be the fact that it may bring people together to talk about these issues that haven't been talked about for a while.
Well, you know, it seems to me that we've talked about these issues, especially in this administration, which we thought was going to be a post-racial presidency. Sadly, in a lot of ways, it has become the most racial presidency. Back now for part two of our roundtable, and it truly is a roundtable because in addition to State Attorney and former Florida State Senator Dave Aronberg, we also have from the great political blog Shark Tank, Javier Manjarres back with us. Javi, good to have you back with us now.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Well, voice and diction important
yes, it is.
in broadcasting, and we're going to get you guys to articulate and spell out more your positions on what's been going on with the Confederate flag. Obviously, it's been a part of our history, but Republican leaders, as Dave noted before the break, some Republican leaders decided that, hey, it's time for it to go. This thing really got started over the weekend when the 2012 Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney shared his stance in, I guess, a tweet. Take down the Confederate flag at the South Carolina Capitol. To many, it's a symbol of racial hatred. Remove it now to honor Charleston victims. Javier, your take on this entire thing, and Mitt Romney, now with no campaign to run, inserting himself into this debate.
Again, he's one of these candidates of yesterday, as Rubio would say. But look, I mean, this is up to the states. If the South Carolinians want to take down the flag, it's up to them. But where does this end? Is the state flag of Mississippi or Georgia next? Are they going to strip them? Or are they going to go further and strip the U.S. flag? Because look, the U.S. flag is considered around the world as very divisive. Where's it going to end?
Symbols. Now, down here in Florida, Dave, Jeb Bush weighed in saying, well, take a look at what we did. We moved it to a museum. Does Jeb come out of this thing with his stock improved?
Yeah, and when he did this, he got some criticism. You know how he did it, though? It was a really cool move. He waited until there were renovations at the Capitol, and so all the flags were taken down, just that the Confederate flag wasn't put back up. And instead of being put back up, it went into a museum. And so when people emailed him to complain that, hey, where's the flag? He said, go visit it in a museum. And then the issue went away. So I do think Jeb looks good in this.
So subterfuge with the public is a good way to handle it. Gee, I'll have to remember that if Governor Bush becomes President Bush when we're dealing with amnesty in the days ahead. But that's something we'll deal with at some other time. Let's talk more about another presidential candidate, specifically Hillary Clinton. And man, oh man, is she having a busy summer. She is scheduled to attend 26 fundraisers from now until July 3rd. That's not a long period of time, but she wants to raise some end-of-quarter cash. Hillary, one thing she's going to do, she's got high-profile concerts, Tony Bennett, Lady Gaga, and a much-hyped evening with Hillary and John Bon Jovi. They're like this. But really, like this in the polling is Senator Bernie Sanders.
You're looking at a New Hampshire poll.
Well, yeah, and in Iowa, too. He's climbing.
Bernie Sanders is not going to be president. He's not going to be the Democratic nominee. He will engender a lot of enthusiasm on the left. That's where the passion is. So it's not a surprise you're seeing this, but I don't think it has lasting power because I do think people will coalesce within the Democratic Party beyond the inevitable candidate, Hillary Clinton.
And have you weighed in for Hillary already?
Not yet, but I plan to soon.
Well, I tell you what, let's wait, Javi. Look into the camera. Go ahead. You can send a Valentine to Mrs. Clinton. If you'd like to on this program, go ahead and make news.
I would love to be invited to the John Bon Jovi concert.
Actually,
you
actually,
endorse
so
her.
would I. Where am I looking? So would I. I would like to be invited as well.
Well, but what about now? Bernie Sanders went out to Hollywood, raised some coin.
Right.
Is a self-avowed socialist who's running as a Democrat, so it certainly does.
Well, so
pep
what
up the
difference is
left.
between him and Hillary Clinton?
Exactly.
So, look, Dave would know better than anyone. He's running every other year for re-election, so he knows at the end of each election cycle, they're cramming these fundraisers in to make a bunch of cash. I mean, that's part of the game. But I still don't think it's going to be Hillary Clinton. I'm one of those that think it's someone else. I think I've been saying that could be someone like a Julian Castro come out of nowhere. Of course, the prognosticator here, the poo ball with the crystal ball will tell you it's going to be Hillary, but who knows?
This race is pretty obvious. It's going to be Hillary versus either Jeb, Marco, or Scott Walker. That's the race.
Wait,
Well,
buddy, Ted
but wait a
Cruz.
minute, pal.
No. I know Ted, not going to be him.
Listen, we're going to have a whole long time to take a look at this campaign. Before we leave you guys here today, Obamacare, Jonathan Gruber. Remember him? Take a listen to what he had to say.
Lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really, really critical to getting the thing to pass.
Yeah, American voters were stupid, and we heard from the president. This guy was a minor functionary. Wall Street Journal's done some reporting, David. Turns out that Gruber was one of the chief architects of Obamacare.
Depends how you define chief architect. He may have met with the president once.
Comes a spin.
Is that how you define what is? Your take, Javi,
Look,
30 seconds.
I took great joy in watching Mr. Goober. I was at Gruber, whatever. I was at that actual hearing on the Hill where they grilled him. ISA grilled him. And let me just tell you, it's pretty comical how he dodged every question. But what do you expect?
It is just too bad that George Lindsay is no longer with us. In a made-for-TV movie, we could have Goober as Gruber. But the mind boggles. To you both, thanks for the tug and war. Lots more ahead as Newsmax Now continues. Stay with us.